please have our seats? Amen. Amen. Can I actually ask the panel, can we please test your mics, please? Just make sure it's all working. I mean, that's the last of mics. I don't know what I said. Mic.
Hello? Hello?
Is it working? Hello? Hello?
Thank you. Thank you. Amen. Hey, Smiley. Can I have that music off, please? Thank you. Amen. Hallelujah. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome. Welcome if you are on the social media platforms. Welcome if you are here in the socially distanced auditorium. Today, to our very first session of GLOWtalks. So it's our inaugural session of GLOWtalks, and we are so glad that you're able to join us today. Whether you're watching this now or you're going to watch it later, we hope that you will learn something or have something affirmed that you know already about the COVID-19 vaccines. The topic we have before us today is COVID-19 vaccines, the truth, the lies, and you. And we have a knowledgeable, experienced, and professional 4 panelists with us today who are going to be discussing this with us. And I would just ask you to watch a quick jingle about their backgrounds just before we get started with the rest of the session.
Welcome to GLOWtalks. Our topic of discussion today is COVID-19 vaccines, truth, the lies, and you. Now let's meet our panelists for today. First on the list is Dr. Abimbola Adilakun. Dr. Abimbola has always loved medicine and being a doctor. She relocated to the United Kingdom just a year ago, and she's currently working in the NHS with the Accident and Emergency Department. She's also in pursuit of starting a training in acute medicine. Dr. Abimbola was trained in the College of Medicine, University of Lagos, after which she went ahead to work in general practice for some years before relocating. Dr. Abimbola is an igniter and a firm believer of conscious living. She is a Christian, and her life standards are mostly formed by the Word of God. Medicine is an avenue for her to reach out to people spiritually and emotionally. Dr. Abimbola is married to her lovely husband, who has been a pillar of support towards her personal and career growth. Her marriage is blessed with a beautiful daughter. Next is Dr. Adishegun Michael Akintaylor. Dr. Akintaylor was born in Ibadan, Nigeria, and qualified from the University of Benin Medical School in the year 1989. Following completion of his housemanship as a junior doctor at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, Lagos, and the NYSC orientation, he left the shores of Nigeria in the year 1990 to further his postgraduate medical education in the United Kingdom. He ran his single-handed practice for 3 years before joining a group practice in the year 2005. Where he has been a principal GP in the 3 partnership-led suburban medium-sized practice, the Pine Medical Centre in Hayes, Middlesex. He practices there till date and has been actively involved in a lot of leadership roles in general practice in the Hayes and Harlington locality of Hillingdon. Dr. Akintaylor's hobbies include swimming, lawn tennis, cycling, and information technology. Dr. Akintaylor is married with 2 sons, of whom the oldest son works currently as a junior doctor at the Teaching Hospital in Newcastle. Dr. Chidi Domike. Dr. Chidi Domike is a research pharmacist who has had over 15 years' experience in clinical research industry, as well as working in various capacities in clinical and study management. In his capacity as a clinical trial strategist, subject matter expert, and consultant, he has been responsible for the provision, planning, and delivery of clinical trials for several pharmaceutical companies and research organizations across multiple regions and development phases. His area of specialty include oncology and infectious diseases. Reverend Tunde Balogun. Reverend Tunde Balogun is the lead pastor at the Kingsborough Centre, West London. After a university degree in sociology and anthropology in Nigeria, he relocated to live in the United Kingdom in the year 1994 with a long hot desire to be an MI6 detective. However, his journey of faith, characterized by zeal and passion and love for spiritual insight, soon took priority for him. He loves to encourage, resource, and motivate people in the pursuit of their dreams and set goals. He generally believes that everyone created by God is a package of treasure. He enjoys serving and being relevant to his family, the congregation he leads, and the larger community with passion. To see the truth of the gospel come alive in the life of people within and beyond the church community is very dear to his heart. The pioneering grace he champions has helped the Kingsborough Centre project to establish a number of laudable, self-sustained community projects, which includes the first food bank in London in the year 2009, the Hillingdon Food Bank, and a multi-site Ofsted registered childcare in West London, the Coat of Many Colours Nursery. The Hillingdon Food Bank won the Mayoral Charity of the Year award in the London Borough of Hillingdon in the year 2010-11. Love Your Street, London, Pass Me On, and life coaching are examples of other projects he is inspiring and leading to support his local community. Reverend Tunde Balogun is the author of the books Arithmetic of Prayer, A to Z of Godly Prosperity, and Shake Off the Dust, which has blessed so many people. Reverend Tunde Balogun has been married to Pastor Tony Balogun for 26 years and has been blessed with 3 sons, Dara, Joash, and Daniel.
Thank you very much. That was a very detailed expose, albeit all true, of the panel that we have before us, to discuss COVID-19, vaccines, the truth, the lies, and you. So thank you very much once again, Dr. Michael Akintaylor, Dr. Chidi Domike, Dr. Bimbo Adelakun, and Reverend and Pastor Tunde Balogun as well. We're very pleased that you are here, that you're sparing us the time today as we go through this session. We took the time to find out from a very small section, albeit of 40 people, to do a survey about this, just to find out what people are thinking. You and I hear so much in the news, but we thought we would hear from, just some people. As I say, it's a small sample of 37 people who replied to this survey, and the results, what we got from that is going to be shown to you next.
And we took it seriously. So from the survey, we prepared a presentation which we'd like you to watch. Thank you very much for watching it.
Thank you for that. Thank you for showing us that. I hope you were able to grasp some information from that. And that leads me on to, why we are here today. Why are we here today? Why are we here today? Now, coronavirus, COVID-19, as it sort of, just spills over our tongue as though we've always had this vocabulary. We haven't, okay? We haven't. But we've come to know in the last 12 months in the United Kingdom that it's been here with us. You would have seen one of the slides there. 90% of those who responded said it's affected, their lives, their daily routines. Now, in the United Kingdom, COVID-19 has taken 123,000 lives. Across the globe, 2.7 million lives. However, you would think, when the vaccines were approved, that everyone would rush and go and take it. But what we have found is that there has been varying degrees of responses to, people talking about the vaccines or being asked to take the vaccine. And we are going to have questions that our panel will help us to sort of discuss and hopefully either encourage you, dispel, some of the things that are probably not that right. So the title is The Truth, the Lies, and You. So today, our aim is that we educate, that we enlighten and that we encourage you to engage a little bit more, and also that you leave here empowered, or when you finish listening to this, that you are also empowered as well. And that leads me on to, I'm going to emphasize 2 slides. Now, 2 slides that I want to emphasize, I already referred to the 90% of people who actually said, well, my general activities have been affected. 50% said, those responded said, my job has been affected. However, like I said, not all of them are going to be willing to take the vaccine. Can I see the next slide? Yeah. Not all of them are wanting to take the vaccine, which I don't know about you, but that could be a shock. Or maybe it's not a shock, I don't know. But we do know that 123,000 people in the United Kingdom have died and 2.7 million globally as well. And so our panel today, I'm going to give them a few minutes each, 3-4 minutes maybe, to actually, from their specialized backgrounds, what we've heard, their experience, they're certified, they are professionals, right here, right now, in the United Kingdom, what, from their perspective, we need to know about the coronavirus vaccines, or perhaps the background of the vaccines themselves. And, I might sort of change my mind later on, but for now, I will start with, to my far left, Dr. Chidi Domike, whom we've heard. We know he's a specialist a researcher, a research consultant, and his specialty is actually, one of his special areas is in fact infectious diseases, isn't it? And oncology. And so, Dr. Chidi Domike, can I just hand over to you for a few minutes, and you sort of can, let's hear from you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for this very special session. I'll go straight to the point. Like the moderator said, the novel virus, coronavirus, is the very first time we are saying it, but not really the very first type of coronavirus. Just to be clear, we have had other coronaviruses, like as in the MERS virus and the SARS virus that we encountered in 2003. But this is another kind of coronavirus. And the actual nomenclature is SARS-CoV-2, and this is what causes COVID-19. Clue is in the name, COVID-19, coronavirus disease sequenced in 2019. So that's where we're going to start from, just so that you know how all this has started. We are not going to go into most of the conspiracy theories about where it started and how it started. I think everyone knows about that. What myself and my learned panelists and colleagues are here to do today is to diffuse and to explain and to make clear those things that bother you with regards to this vaccination and the vaccination program. As we now know, there are 2 approved vaccines for use in the UK. And these will be the AstraZeneca vaccine and the Pfizer vaccine. There are slight differences between the 2, and I think in the course of the hour, we will be able to explain that and also be able to answer any questions that you do have. As we all know, coronavirus COVID-19 disease is medically what we call an acute respiratory disease syndrome type of illness. It is not clear how it's going to affect anyone, and we're still learning a lot about it. So what I can say here, and to keep it very brief, is today we will try to address some of those concerns, be it from a clinical perspective, be it from the vaccination program, be it from the vaccines, and be it from the regulatory pathway for the approval of these vaccines. So I thank you again for your time, and I thank you, moderator.
Thank you, Dr. Chidi. I will also call on Dr. Bimbo Adelakun, who is an accident and emergency, a hospital doctor, and no doubt has seen firsthand the coronavirus in action, so to speak. And I hope also has seen the other side of it. People also, perhaps when they've become well and gone home. And so, Dr. Bimbo, what would you like to tell us about these, the coronavirus, and also, I think more specifically, the vaccines themselves? Over to you.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to come and speak at this forum. So this coronavirus, I mean, we know the basic symptoms, the fever, the cough, shortness of breath. Okay, there are also other multisystemic, symptoms of coronavirus. Now we're beginning to see people that come in with coronavirus that, just go blind. We have seen people that come in, they're very short of breath, they're hypoxic, and then they have stroke. These are 35-year-olds, these are 40-year-old patients who have no comorbidities. We have patients who have had coronavirus for the past 6 months and keep coming back to the emergency department with one thing or the other. We have people that have what we call long COVID. So I'm not trying to sensationalize coronavirus. I'm trying to say there are more things to coronavirus than fever, shortness of breath, and cough. So if there is a chance that people can go back to their normal lives, we can have people who are vulnerable, not have very ill diseases, then I think it's worth thinking about. It's worth being open-minded about. You want to receive the coronavirus vaccines. Also, I want to add as well that there are patients. I mean, there are people that are asymptomatic. They have coronavirus. They've had coronavirus or they've been exposed and they've had antibodies. So most of these people do not know, but they had to do antibody tests and they found out that they've been exposed at one point or the other. We found out that these people are also asymptomatic carriers. The reason why I said this is that we have healthcare workers who have had it in the past. They never, they came back, no cough, no fever, they were fine. And then they're now able to transmit to people who live in the same house as they do. And, it was at the point of flatulence. So we do this testing every 3-4 days in a week where we just check whether we have coronavirus so that when we go to the hospitals, there are no risks to our patients. And then we find out that these people, we don't have those symptoms, but we test positive for coronavirus. So this means that you may not you may not have those symptoms, and so you would not know that you have coronavirus, but you can still transmit to vulnerable people who probably do not have, the immunity that you have. So this is just to just provide that information, let everybody be aware, and then be open-minded about it. This is not to coerce anybody or to say this is the best thing that has happened to the human race, but it's just to provide this information, and then let's be open-minded so that at the end of this meeting, at least maybe 50% of people will be more open-minded about receiving the vaccine and wanting to seek more information about the vaccine. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bimbo. Wow. Just that short, time that you spoke. It really brings it to life, doesn't it? I don't know about you, but I found myself visualizing, some of the things that you were mentioning there. On my far right is Pastor Tunde, senior pastor here at Kingsborough Center. I'm just going to, from a faith perspective, no doubt people have perhaps come to him and asked questions. And here we are, in the heart of West London, leading this session today, coordinating it. It's because, obviously, I know that he has a strong heart for people to actually, know the truth. And so, Pastor Tunde, from your perspective, what would what would be the things that you would ask people to take to heart as far as the COVID-19 vaccines go?
Yeah, thank you very much, and good evening, everybody. I think one of the things that that people have asked me or walk up to me to want to verify is, what does God say about COVID-19, about coronavirus? Where is it in the Bible? Now, I cannot tell you that I've read or seen coronavirus in the Bible, but what I've seen in the Bible is the word plagues or diseases, and different kinds of very serious, dangerous ailments that we have seen that happen to the lives of people who long lived before us. Now, if you look at it, what could be the genesis of things like this in the Bible? The genesis of sickness, disease, and death, like we have heard, that has occurred all over the world in this country, is as a result of the separation that mankind have engaged into between the Creator and us. And when things like that happen, it brings about consequences. Now, I want to say, and I want to submit, that from the understanding that the Bible gives to us, whenever we walk away from God, we are opening ourselves to dangerous, severe consequences, and that is where we have people falling ill and where people are not able to look after themselves. However, we should not run away from the fact that when God created the heavens and the earth, he gave us control over the earth to be able to look after it, to care for it, and also to derive our sustenance from it. Now, within a particular guideline, he wants us to do that, to govern the earth and look after it. Now, when we walked away from that, we suffer some of those consequences that are man-made. And people have said perhaps one of the situations with these diseases that we come across is as a result of what we have done and what we haven't done. And if we can only return to the area and the point of accountability and responsibility that God gave to us in the days of creation, when the Bible told us that everything was safe and sound and well. In fact, there was nothing like death until disobedience and man separated himself from God. So it is for us to know that, as it were now, when we are talking about coronavirus, it is to know that as in the point of where we are to cater and to care for the world, what can we do? And I want to value the experience and the fact and the support that our medical professionals have given within the context of the governance and the innovations that God has given us as human beings in creation, to be able to look after the resources of the earth and use it to better our lives. Innovation that has come even through vaccination is part of how we can look at how to better our lives and care for the world that we live in. And I want to say that we need to, first of all, protect ourselves and then look for what we can do next. It is those who are here protected by the vaccines, as it were, that can be here to say, I'm going to pray more, I'm going to do all the things that I want to do. If you're no more here, you can't do any of those things. And I believe the immediate focus is now for us to get protected by what has been found and given to us by the professionals. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Tunde. And, last but certainly not least, Dr. Michael Akin-Taylor, who is the general practitioner. I mean, I'm sure you would have a lot to say to us, because you see also you see patients coming in, and perhaps, I don't know, some of those have ended up with having the virus itself. And so what would you want to say to us on the COVID-19 vaccines, or perhaps from the perspective that you've been able to see this play out?
First and foremost, I would like to thank Dr. Tunde Balogun for taking this initiative to draw attention to this very topical matter. First and foremost, COVID-19 is real. Now, all the deaths recorded in the world, these are just not numbers. These are people. These are breadwinners, mothers, fathers, sisters, you name it. Now, my background was in general medicine before I became a GP. I've been on both sides of the coin. Now I've been a GP for over 20 years. From the look of things, when you look at yourself as a medical professional, you talk about diseases, viruses do not go away. The flu influenza virus has been around for years. The reason it still kills, but the reason we're able to get the numbers down is because of vaccination. I can see the same with COVID-19. I'm not going to peddle fear, but this is real. This is being realistic. The long-term effects, my colleague Dr. Bimbo has mentioned about long COVID. Now, it says after you've recovered, you may have symptoms persisting for about 3 to 6 weeks. But I bet that's the textbook stuff. But what I'm saying with my patients, the long-lasting effects we don't know yet. Now, COVID-19 is beginning to affect people in different ways. The good old saying is that you judge the wealth of a nation by its health. My late mom, who was a nurse, on her dying bed told me, said, look, young man, you're now a doctor. There is nothing as important as your health. If your health goes, everything goes. I've been opportune to be a doctor for the last 31 years. I've seen men with all their millions cry because their health were failing, because they thought they were immortal. When I chased them around for their checks, they said, oh, doc, I'm very busy. You know, I've got some business to run and stuff. I said, okay. I said, but remember, your health is everything. That's what I've been brought up with. Now, we are beginning to see a lot of people being affected mental-wise. Mental health is on the increment. COVID-19 more or less has turned our lives upside down because people have been confined to spaces. Now, there's an increase in domestic violence. Women are suffering. Young girls are suffering from sexual abuse within the households. Now, COVID-19 is just about you not being able to go to work, you not being able to do activities. But when you think of long-term effects, like affecting people's mental health, that is a big problem. And we are yet to see the long-term effects. My final message to everyone listening to this talk is, think for once how your actions will affect others. Think about others. One of the people with the largest megaphone in the world is the Queen. She's just spoken, and it took her, I'm sure she couldn't help it. That was why she spoke about the vaccine. Anyway, I would like to leave it there, but please think about other people. There are so many asymptomatic carriers, people who have the infection, who don't know they have it. And the reason I'm here today is because it's a personal one as well, because I severely suffered from COVID-19. And at some point I told my wife, I said, I didn't let her know, it was later. I said, there were times I said to myself, am I going to make it? I've got 2 sons, God. But, you know, here I am. I told my panelists, Dr. Bimbo and Dr. Chidi here, that there were times I had temperature as high as 40.9, 40.8. And I was beginning to wonder what's going on with me. I'm very fit, I do swim. Why? And the problem here with COVID-19 is you don't know how it's going to affect you. I have 95-year-old patients who've had COVID-19 and they survived. And their 40-year-old grandsons died. So how do you explain that? You don't have to wait to have COVID-19. It's not a very good experience at all, believe you me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. That definitely brings it home in general, in a very general sense from our panelists here today. But I would also, we have some questions that I'm going to be putting to them, over the next 15, 20 minutes. But I'd like to also say for those online or those here in the room, if you have a question that you'd like us to answer, there's a number on the screen, hopefully also being shown to those on social media, but certainly to those in the room. Please text us any question that sort of comes to your mind as we go along. Also, please go to the site, menti.com, because at the end of this, we want to actually also hear some feedback from you. Okay, but we'll do that later on. But for now, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. And that leads me then to the questions that we have had submitted to us, from the people who took the survey and others as well. And the first question I have here is, what would you say to those who say the side effects, the long-term effects have been unclear and in some cases changing as well? It has not been really mentioned, those who are contraindicated, meaning those who should not take it. And also, the things people are saying about, does it affect fertility? Does it affect the so-called BAME group, the African, Afro-Caribbean, Asian community? Does it, in the same way that it was being said that the virus itself had more complications in those ethnicities, does the vaccine have a similar type of effect as well in any way? Are they disadvantaged? I just want to put that question to you, Dr. Chidi, because actually there were several questions along the same lines, which I sort of summarized into that one question. So, what would you say to people who are thinking along those lines?
Yeah, thanks for that question. And to go straight to the point, during the clinical trials, I'm going to reference for both vaccines. We saw 44,000 people for the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine, and we saw 23,000 people for the AstraZeneca vaccine across 6 countries. I think Argentina, United States, Brazil, and I can't remember the other countries. The side effects that we saw from the vaccine, will be down to what we will call the regular hypersensitivity kind of reactions, infusion-related reaction, which is something like probably a sore point where the jab has been given. And then we've also seen things like headaches. We've seen things like fevers, very, very minor, and nothing extraordinary. And actually, if those side effects do come, in a way, from a research point of view, it's to be expected, because the body is trying to, or the vaccine is going to try to evoke an immune response. And so some of the side effects shows actually that it is actually working well. But we get worried if it now sustains longer than it's necessary, because it's meant to be for the shortest possible time, and it will go away. Definitely, it will go away. I make bold to say that no one has died. We've not recorded any fatality as a result of the vaccine in the UK here that I'm aware of. We have vaccinated 16.9 million people as at yesterday. That's the actual data. And we haven't lost one person. For every medication that is made, for every medical product that is made, we anticipate side effects. That's going to happen, regardless of what it is. Some people could take paracetamol and have a side effect. Okay, so in medicine, what we look at is what we call the benefit risk. Does this benefit the patient? What's the risk involved? So if the benefit outweighs the risk, as Dr. King has clearly stated, so why not? We know that vaccination is the way forward. We understand that clearly. We've seen the progress and the success of vaccine in previous viral infections, and this current vaccination program is what will lead us out of this lockdown, is what will lead us back into the normal life, and it's what will continue to help us rebuild this economy, rebuild ourselves, and continue to grow. So with regards to that, I think that side effects and reactions like that are to be expected. They will be normally listed in the information for the vaccine, and before anyone gets given the jab, they will be told about it. They will be told about what to expect. So I will say that it's nothing too bad. It's nothing bad at all. Some people will have it, some people may not have it at all. So the way it reacts in people will also be different. Okay, now to move on to your second question about those who are excluded. Normally, during clinical trials, we tend not to include pregnant women, right? And we tend not to include young children, unless where a study has been specifically designed for that purpose. So I'm aware that most of the COVID-19 studies, the vaccination studies that were done back in 2020 prior to this time, did not include this population of people. But we also rely on something else that we call non-clinical studies to tell us if it's going to be possible to use it in pregnant women. There is no contraindication. It's not currently contraindicated in pregnant women. There is no reason why a pregnant woman cannot have the vaccine. I'm aware that the raw data, the raw clinical, non-clinical studies data for the Pfizer mRNA vaccine is very favorable, extremely favorable for pregnant women. So if there are people who are intending to be pregnant, already pregnant, or hoping to conceive, that's enough reason for you to actually take the vaccine. As Dr. Bimbo has explained, this is something that we don't know how it will affect anyone. So the only surety against hospitalization, assuming one gets COVID, severe illness, as Dr. Michael has said earlier on, is to get the vaccine. It's simply to get the vaccine when you are invited for it. So I will say that right now, there isn't any sort of contraindication for those categories of people. And with regards to the side effects, this is something that we know. It's something that we've seen. It's data that we're aware of. And death does not include one of them.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Chidi. I would also put not the whole of that question. That would be unfair, Dr. Aki, to Dr. Michael even, to put that whole question to you. But from your perspective, in terms of seeing patients, have you perhaps had people who've taken the vaccine and perhaps come back ill in any type of way? It's now been underway, yes, at a very, very fast pace. This over 16 million people. So, I mean, have you seen or heard of people who've developed complications to that extent?
As of this morning, I think it's over 19 million vaccinated. I've had vaccination myself, and apart from a sore hand and feeling a bit lethargic, I didn't suffer much. Then I asked some of my friends and colleagues and patients, you'll be surprised at the variation in response to this vaccine. Some people had no symptoms at all. Most of the commonest symptoms I had was, my arms were very sore. Okay, my arm was sore as well because it's much more, I found it more painful than the flu vaccine that I get every year. A few patients have called to say, I've been lethargic, I've been quite tired, but no serious side effect like Dr. Chidi has already mentioned. And to be honest, the way I look at the COVID vaccine, I consider it a silver bullet. It may not solve all our problems, but right now it's the best thing we have to getting back to normal. It's not. I pose questions to family members or friends who call me and even patients. I said, well, look, what have you really got to lose? What have you really got to lose? I'm not aware that anyone's died as well from being vaccinated. And there are times when research scientists go ahead and do some work to help us get better. I'm just going to digress a bit. A lot of people are questioning about how quick this vaccine has been produced. Now, people tend to forget that the research scientists have been working hard for the last 10, 15 years. Some of the work they've done with Ebola are some of the work they're trying to reproduce with this vaccine so that they make it as safe and efficient as possible. Now, why would governments in the world want to spend billions of pounds for vaccination? Is it to harm their people? Like people keep on peddling disinformation about having chips put into you? The simple answer is no. The vaccines do work. Yes, it may not, people will talk about mutated genes now, mutated variants, but the core structure of the protein, spike protein, the vaccines will still be effective to those of these infections. And to be honest, I haven't really, people are different. Just like people will react differently to medications like paracetamol or any other medication. So the fact remains that the vaccine, as far as I'm aware, is very safe. I haven't got many calls from my patients to say, I've been very lethargic with the COVID vaccine.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Michael. I would actually put the same question to you as a hospital doctor, Dr. Bimbo.
So yes, we're seeing some side effects. Aside from what my other colleagues have mentioned, some people also develop enlarged lymph nodes. So lymph nodes are like certain organs that just it produces chemicals that fight against infections in your body. So when you have an infection, maybe a tooth infection, you find that you have some really small glands, maybe on your chin or on your neck. That's just lymph nodes basically. So yes, some people have enlarged lymph nodes. I had very enlarged lymph nodes for about 2 days, and I was a bit really down, and then that was it. But apart from that, the side effect profile is really good. Talking about fertility, the question I would like to ask is, the honest truth is that because this vaccine, came out less than a year ago, we really do not know. But what we know is that we don't also know the long side effects of COVID-19 infection itself. Are we sure that it doesn't even affect fertility? We don't know. So that's I think is worth thinking about. Another thing I'd like to mention about developing the vaccine is that most of the illnesses, most of the diseases that vaccines are developed against, for instance, the TB, we have the BCG vaccine that we give in, back home in Nigeria. We have the yellow fever vaccine that we give. I mean, these infections, most of these infections are from, countries that are not well developed. So the reason why I'm mentioning this is that when we have an infection that is as global as coronavirus vaccine infection, that is not affecting just the poor countries or countries that are a bit not doing well financially, and we have something that is affecting the whole country. There's a lot of political will. There's a lot of money being thrown into developing this vaccine, and that will hasten, development of solutions to it. Also, it's important to note that during this development of vaccine, most of the people that volunteered, because one of the things that affects research in vaccine development is people volunteering to want to, trial these vaccines. More than 80% of people that volunteered are white people or people of, Western, background. So this is to say that when you have other vaccines that are developed over a long period of time, like the BCG I've mentioned or yellow fever vaccine, they're from these black communities and people that are not willing to volunteer for trialing. And so this could account for these vaccines not being developed quickly enough. So I'd just like us to just think about these things and, be able to answer a few questions about what we are thinking or the things that, making us a bit reserved about, taking up this vaccine. That's just what I'd like to add.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bimbo. That definitely was enlightening, and that's part of the reason why we are here today. Pastor Tunde, just to, from this side of the faith perspective, so we do hear, people saying, well, I'm just going to pray, and, I've prayed, and, yes, God has prevented me from having the coronavirus, but obviously we know that people can, in fact, be asymptomatic, isn't it? Maybe they did have it, in fact. I've prayed, and God has not allowed me to be sick. So in the same way that I've prayed, whatever happens, I can also pray, and yes, everything would be fine. I mean, what would you say from that perspective?
I think I'm going to borrow the statement from Dr. Aki Taylor saying that the vaccines should be seen like a silver bullet because it is just what we have now. I ended earlier on saying that get yourself protected first. Get a protection for yourself first. And then you can pray. Because I don't see, I'm not sure you guys have labeled any of the vaccines to say, once you use it, don't pray. You can continue to pray. You will only be able to pray if you're here. So what I want to encourage people is that it doesn't stop you from praying. It doesn't stop you from achieving your goals. It doesn't stop you from continuing to believe that you're going to gain access to achieving what you want to achieve. But what we are saying is that as at now, I mean, we can picture, I can remember on top of my head how many pastors I have heard who have died. I mean, pastors who I know pray. Pastors who I know have great faith, great understanding of what it is to pray and believe God and receive an answer. But they have died. So that is to clarify and to show that the effect of this dangerous killer is unpredictable. And you should get yourself protected first, and then we can come to the next stage of how do we get a long-term solution from prayer, from fasting, from any other means that God will give to us.
Thank you very much, Pastor Tunde. Some of the questions, again, that we still had submitted to us even before the session is, okay, so since the vaccine itself is not 100% efficacious, why take it at all? Because, people think they would probably still have the virus anyway. So why take it at all? Why bother? And, another very closely linked one is people say, well, the fear of the unknown. We don't know. We just don't know. I mean, I know that's sort of partly been touched on. But, I mean, what would you say from that perspective, Dr. Chidi?
Yes, to go straight to the point, go straight to the point, just to be clear, no vaccine will prevent you from contracting COVID. So let that sink in. None of the vaccines today will prevent you from contracting COVID. What they will do is they will ensure that if, in the event that you do contract COVID, you wouldn't be hospitalized, you wouldn't be severely ill, and most likely, if you're vaccinated, you may not be able to, actually catch it that easily. But we are not putting these vaccines out to say, no, it's gonna stop you getting COVID. The normal social distancing, mask wearing will continue until most of the population is vaccinated. If everyone is vaccinated, then no one can, in that case, begin to talk about getting COVID, because we would have gradually started working towards something we know as herd immunity. Now, to go further specifically, I know there's been a lot of concerns with regards to the speed of approval or speed of manufacture for these vaccines. Earlier on during the service today, I think it was Pastor Chidi who did mention a lot about technology. So it's that same technology that has helped to bring something that would normally take us between 5 and 10 years to enable us get it all done in 18 months. And I'll tell you simply how that is done. Here in the UK, the regulator, MHRA themselves, they have moved away from the normal way that we will normally conduct clinical study reviews from phase 1, 2, 3, and 4. So because of the expediency associated with disease, and because everyone saw how it was shutting down economies, you couldn't travel, you couldn't go next door, you couldn't do nothing. So for all the studies that were done, we started giving the data straight to the regulator in real time. So that was why they were able to get this, what we call emergency use authorization. That's currently what we have for most of these things, because we are still studying it, CC. So that answers one of the very, very key questions with regards to the speed of approval and speed of having it with us now. So it is better technology, like Pastor Chidi said earlier on during the service. We have over 200 scientists, myself included, who worked on these vaccines. We never really got to meet face to face. It was all done over Zoom. So, and the same for the approvals. So it was easier for scientists to review documents in real time using things as simple as Microsoft Teams, using things as simple as Zoom. And some of these things we had, but we didn't realize what we could do with them. But now we know, and this is what has given us the leverage in being able to produce these life-saving, life-changing biological entities that we call these vaccines. So that's one thing to note. It's not going to stop you contracting COVID, but it will stop you dying from COVID. It will stop you being hospitalized from COVID. It will stop you being severely ill from COVID because of the ability it has to make antibodies for you and the ability it has to, keep that disease at bay. So the key question here is, we don't still know everything. That's the truth. Like Dr. Bimbo said earlier on, we are still trying our best to understand this disease. We're still trying our best to understand exactly what we can say. So the unknown still remains the unknown. But what we know today is that if everyone goes out to vaccinate when they're invited, if everyone takes up that offer, and if everyone gets their shot as at when due, we will have less diseases, we will have less hospitalizations, and we will have less severe COVID. And I think for this economy, for human life, for humanity, that is what matters most.
Thank you, Dr. Chidi. Thank you so much. I'd actually, Pastor Tunde, from the faith aspect of things, the unknown, the unknown. From a faith perspective, I mean, what would you also say to people who are saying, well, yes, actually, we don't want to go for this because we like things to be predictable. I mean, I'm sure you would probably have something to say from that perspective in terms of predictability.
I think that is so clear because one of the wrecking perspective that people have is the fear of the unknown. Generally, people are afraid of what they do not have control over, what they do not have detailed understanding about. And of course, that threatens our confidence and our position. And of course, this is where we find ourselves with the issue of the COVID. However, one of the things that we can be assured about is that we serve a God, and from a faith perspective, we know that we have a God who didn't just created us and toss us into the jungle. The Bible said to us that he actually very much cares for us, our day-to-day life. So we might not know what tomorrow holds, but we know the person who knows tomorrow. In fact, he created tomorrow. The Bible says that he has already gone through tomorrow and the next day after and the next day after before he came back to today that you were living in. So that is assuring for us to say that we can depend on him. And this is where we've got to be praying and also support medical professionals who are timelessly finding themselves researching and going through so many things to find solutions. Many of the discoveries and innovations over the years in science were actually done by Christians who received inspiration from God and good direction of what to do and how to get solutions. And I don't think that discovering these vaccines is any different from the fact that God must have inspired them in the creative nature of who God is, that we're in his image, to give them the direction to know what to do.
Thank you very much, Pastor Tunde. Thank you so much. Now we're going to go into the questions that we've had submitted in the time that we've been answering those pre-submitted questions. One of the ones I've got here says, it is well known that the governments all over the world lied, deceived people as to the usefulness of face masks this time, face masks. Last year, just because they wanted medical professionals to have access to it, and it sort of goes on. Can we trust that there are, still again in the same vein, yes, things that are not being told to us, and it also refers to the reputation of vaccine providers or developers, whereby the reputation in some cases is not above board. And so I'd just like to, I'm not sure who to put that to. Dr. Michael, yes, would you like to answer that for us?
Unfortunately, when you have a pandemic like this, there will be people who live in mistrust because there's a lot of disinformation out there. Unfortunately, the social media is one of the largest echo chamber of falsehood, I'm afraid. I'm sorry to say. And that's why I hardly go onto social media anymore. Now, I digress a bit. Pastor Tunde has said something very important about religious leaders. Despite the faith and the prayers and the goodness, we've lost a lot of them, just like we lost a lot of medical professionals. Now, coming back to face masks, when this pandemic first took off, I told people around me, I said, look, it's simple, we're doctors. This virus spreading so rapidly must be airborne. So the best thing you can do is wear a face mask. Unfortunately, I don't blame people for having this mistrust. The problem is this is a very novel disease. To be honest with you, even scientists, medical professionals were still trying to understand this disease. That was why there was so much confusion about whether you should wear a face mask or not. But the face mask is still one of the most preventable most preventable measures you can take as an individual. If you remember the simple preventative measures of hand, face, and space, these will reduce tremendously the spread of this virus. And it's unfortunate people talk about pharmaceutical companies trying to be smart and make money. But hey, this is the only thing, this is the closest thing we have to treating this condition or preventing it as well. Because there is no cure for viruses. There is no cure for viruses. All we're trying to do is to prevent ourselves from getting harm from these viruses. There was talk about herd immunity in the first place, that, Let people have the infection, we'll have herd immunity, and then we'll be fine. What happened? People were dying in thousands. People were dying in thousands. And please, I want to appeal to everybody listening. People like Chidi and other scientists who have worked so hard, they've toiled for days and nights to look for a solution. And this is the closest we have. So, you have a choice. We're all individuals. You have a choice. You need to be very selective in the information you read. I am no different from you. I go online to get my information. For those who are learned, please carefully select the information you listen to. If you have any doubts, if you're not medically trained or medically based, then you should ask medical professionals, your GPs, family members who are doctors, just to help you understand better. It is very, very important. Please don't be discouraged. The vaccine is here. I mean, COVID is here to stay. It's not going to go away. It's here to stay for the foreseeable future.
And just as you say that, though, Dr. Michael, in what form then do you see it still staying in that sense?
It will stay with us for some time, but it will probably get to the level of like the flu virus. Because once we start having herd immunity, like Dr. Bimbo rightly said, there's still a lot of unknowns, but if you follow medical science, you know that with time, when human beings will always survive. The viruses are very clever. They'll look for a way to outsmart you. That's why they keep mutating. But God's so kind, we've been given the ability to produce antibodies against them. Just like the influenza virus. It still kills, but the death from influenza virus is not like in the early 1930s with the Spanish flu. So it will come to a stage where it won't be undetectable. It will be there, but in a very weakened form, and then we can hopefully carry on with all our lives.
Absolutely. I'm sure many people would be happy to hear that. I just thought I'd add that extra bit. Thank you so much for answering that. Yes.
Dr. Quintelo has said, with regards to face mask, I'm going to be a little bit more technical because this is something that is spread in two ways, aerosols and droplets. Okay, aerosols are the ones you don't see. As I'm speaking here, that's why there's this insistence for social distance, wear a mask. I'm releasing a lot of aerosols, so will everyone here. And then droplets are the ones you see sometimes, when people speak. So if we don't wear a face mask, this virus latches onto the body, into the human lung, into what we call through the human lung, through its spike protein, either from the mouth, the nose, sometimes even the eyes. So that's why it's key that we continue to wear face mask and continue to maintain preventative measures and continue to socially distance, even after you've had the vaccine. Even after you've had the vaccine, until, like my colleague here says, until we achieve herd immunity. I think it's something that probably will happen in the future. There is no marker for it, but when this virus gets very weak and becomes extremely weakened, we will know, because it will resonate in hospital cases and the data that's coming off it. Now, to the second point about pharmaceutical companies. No company actually sets out to try to make a gain from human suffering. That's the first thing. That's the first basis. Every pharmaceutical company, every clinical research organization has been set up on the ethos of trying to save human life. For so many years, we've been working on trying to find a solution to cancer. For so many years, until today, we're still researching that. And then suddenly we had this pandemic upon us. When this happened, there could have been three possible ways to deal with it. What we say, treatment, therapeutics, a vaccination program, or convalescent plasma. People who've had it, who are kind enough to donate their blood, because it's brimming with antibodies, and we'll give it to someone who is suffering. And like my colleagues here have always said, no one knows how this is going to happen. The pharmaceutical industry, again, it's not a charitable industry. They are there to make profit, and they're also there to, do research and get through with, things that we require to keep us in health. So I do not agree with that sentiment that there is anything untoward other than research for the purposes of furthering human health, for the purposes of developing new medicines, new smarter processes, new smarter procedures. And without the behemoth that is the pharmaceutical industry, we wouldn't have any of these COVID vaccines. I mean, we know about 2 here in the UK, but as I speak, I know one's been approved this morning, the one by Johnson & Johnson, the single dose one, and then I know that there is so many in the pipeline from China and from several other countries. So I think it's not extremely good to think in those terms, because this is an industry that's been designed to try to save human life, that works hand in hand with the medical industry to save human life. So
Thank you.
laughable as that may be, but that's the truth.
Thank you. I mean, I'm not sure why the laughing was going on, but, thank you so much, Dr. Chidi, because indeed, I am sure that it's, a name you've just mentioned there, Johnson & Johnson, we know has been around for a long time. And here they are, developing vaccines, but we probably just remember the baby lotion and the baby lotion and the baby wipes. I think, even, you know what I mean? Okay, so I mean, we have just maybe 2 or 3 more questions that we'll be able to take before we then sort of begin to wrap up. Now, I've got a question here that says, is there a possibility that this, the COVID-19 is a novel, a messenger of the autoimmune disease, a trigger, possibly a trigger of the autoimmune disease? I mean, is there any link there? Does anyone want to take that, Dr. Bimbo? Yes, I was actually thinking of you. Thank you.
Autoimmune diseases, just for clarification, are diseases that come about by your body fighting against itself. So, I mean, these are rare diseases. But if we've actually found that the etiology, I mean, the causative factor of COVID-19 is a virus, then it's unlikely that it's an autoimmune disease or affects people with autoimmune diseases more. So there hasn't been any link. I mean, this is a novel virus, we know that, but there hasn't been any link that people that have pre-existing autoimmune diseases like lupus or, there's no link. I mean, a lot of people that even come to the hospital with autoimmune diseases usually have found out that they've tested negative for COVID. So as at the moment, there's no link between autoimmune diseases and COVID-19 virus.
Do feel free to add to that, Dr. Chidi. Yes.
Discussion to Dr. Bimbo.
Yes.
Sorry.
All right. Okay.
No, so what I was saying to her
Okay.
is because we know in certain extremely outlier cases or severe cases that people with COVID may sometimes have a situation that we call cytokine storm. This is where the body begins to fight itself. When the body has made either excess antibodies or for so many other issues. So that was what I was thinking with that question. Probably they've kind of misunderstood these 2 terms. It is a viral infection. There is no autoimmune issues with it at all. And
while you have the mic, Dr. Chidi, does the vaccine contain any fetal? I'm getting this question about fetal cells. Yes, yeah.
Sorry, what's the actual question with regards to what, human cells or human fetal cells? Well,
I think so. I think so, because we've clarified it and it only still says the same thing.
I think we know about these claims. We know about these questions, because it's been there on social media for a long time. And I think the specific reference is to a cell line we call HEC293, if those numbers are right. Okay, fine. I'm just going to say it, in a way that everyone in this audience may be able to understand it. Yeah, in manufacturing, especially viral vector vaccines like the Oxford vaccine, we need to manufacture a virus in order to convey the genetic material into the body. So in this case, it's been the adenovirus that has been isolated from chimps. Okay, so I think the fetal matter is also something that will be produced in order to make this process smoother. So for many years, there has been only 1 incidence of using a human embryonic cell, but that was probably over 300 or 400 years ago, if memory serves me right. We still do that, but we don't use that kind of live cell. We use what we call a cloned cell. Okay? So what that means in simple terms is we copy what has been done before and manufacture it in a lab and then use it. So the answer is no. There are no human
I think
cells.
that is what's saying emphatically and clearly.
So I wanted to get into the scientific basis so that it's clear, but the answer is no. There is no aborted fetus in any of the known vaccines that we have today,
And we do not have those kind of what we call them pathogens in the cell line for the manufacture of these vaccines, but we will have similarities for that sort of issues, and we need it, in order to make these vaccines work.
Thank you so much. Those are the questions we've had. As you've discussed and sort of enlightened us, educated us, and empowered us, I really do hope so. That's how you feel online and also here in the auditorium. This session is about the truth, and I see that we've really spoken on that so much. But are there the lies as well? Are there the lies? Are there hidden things? Are there still things that it's like, I know probably at Westminster, there may be certain things our Prime Minister shares with his cabinet, but then we don't get to hear that, or Chris Whitty, or JVT, or Paul Valance, and that we don't get to hear about, or even the researchers know, but we don't know. And then by the time they sort of get passed on in Chinese whispers, they actually end up perhaps magnified. So are there some little lies that that perhaps have not been mentioned to us, but really will allow us to make an informed decision?
Yes, but there are no lies. What's there? It's there are no lies. What's there is two things. These vaccines are safe. I will just speak very briefly about the process, the pathway for clinical trials. We will have to go through 3 good phases of clinical trial, from phase 1, 2, and 3, before it will be considered for approval, registration, and before it gets into anyone's bodies. So normally the phase 1 will be very small number of healthy volunteers, okay? At that stage, we are just looking for safety. We're looking to make sure that if we give it to anyone, they're not gonna die. Their kidneys, their livers are not going to pack up. There will be no major impact on the 5 major organs of the body. We're looking at the absorption, distribution, the way the body metabolizes it, and the way it's excreted. We just want to know it's safe. That's the basis of a phase 1 study. And we will look at very small sample of people, and they will be healthy people, okay? And then when we move on to the phase 2, at this stage, we will be looking for something we call MTD, maximum tolerated dose, for whether it's a vaccine or an IMP or anything. We are looking at, again, the efficacy of it to make sure it works, actually. And then at that stage, we might look at the actual disease state we are researching for. Then the gold standard is the phase 3, which will be randomized, could be blinded, and then we'll have a lot more people in it, because it has to cut across several, strands and demographics of people. And at that stage, we are also looking for safety and efficacy. And that's the gold standard. So for these COVID vaccines, I think the major thing has been the speed of approval. And as I said earlier on, when I talk about a phase 1 study, in the olden days or prior to COVID, we will probably do that study and probably wait for 2, 3, 4, 5 months to collect the data, send it to the regulator, and the regulator could take a bit more time before they can, make an impression and then allow us to go to the phase 2 and phase 3. But now, because of technology, because of what we call the rolling review procedure, that's why the UK was able to be the first one out of the block. Okay, so there are no lies, and there are no misconceptions. These vaccines are safe. They are safe as houses. It's not going to kill you. It's been meticulously researched. Nothing has been hidden. Nothing's been taken away. The interim analysis for the Pfizer mRNA vaccine, as well as the AstraZeneca viral vector vaccine, are all online. You could look it up yourselves. The final analysis will be there. And as I speak, the UK is currently going to start what we call a challenge trial, a challenge study, to look at the effectiveness of each vaccine in different demographics. So we continue to research, we continue to experiment, we continue to try to get the best for everyone. So it's clear, it works very well. We have about 85 to 90% efficacy just on the first dose from the Pfizer vaccine, if not more, and the same or almost similar for the AstraZeneca vaccine. So no corners have been cut in making this vaccine. The only thing that has happened is speed has increased because we needed to respond and respond strongly in the life of people who were losing their lives. As my colleagues have stated here, the issues around this illness, they are clinicians. They see people in the best of times and the worst of times, so they know. They've told you about, like you said, a 95-year-old person having it and nothing came out of it, and a 40-year-old having it and then succumbing to death. So the need for speed is there, and this is what scientists like myself have availed ourselves of this opportunity to try to make sure that we will get something that's workable.
Thank you, Dr. Chidi.
And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the vaccine platform. Let me just finish and then I'll let go.
In 30 seconds,
Yeah,
yes.
30 seconds, I'll do that. I'm also aware that there's a lot of speculation with regards to the kind of vaccine, especially with the mRNA one. It's a new platform. We know that. It's never been done, but now it has. And we know it's safe, okay? Don't worry about something that is new. Worry about the efficacy of it. Worry about the data behind it. And all this is online. You can see it for yourself. And if you do have any doubt, you can verify from your doctors, from researchers and clinicians like ourselves, and from anyone who you know. So there has been nothing hidden. It's as clear as ABC, and it's there for everyone to assess.
To know. Thank you so much, Dr. Chidi. Dr. Michael, I actually did want to have some last words from you. I don't know whether you've heard any lies as well, but if you have, do please feel free to let us know as well, and so that we can make an informed decision. Yes.
Thank you. Can I just respond to the issues of lies? People should remember that when you're doing research to bring out medications, vaccines, we're dealing about human lives. This is not Amazon's review about products. You're actually talking about human lives here. So the regulatory bodies and the authorities, the ethos is there about conducting research because we're dealing with people and lives. We're doctors here, so we know what is at stake. That's why our jobs are pressurized. The lies you may get is people, I'm sorry to be a bit political here, like Donald Trump wouldn't tell his people on time that this virus is going to kill. These were the problems they had. This was one singular problem they had in the States. Now, as far as I'm aware, I am not aware of any lies about these vaccines. Now, my appeal, I'm going to digress a bit. Now, to the BAME population, that's the Black, Asian, minority ethnic groups. I'm hearing a lot of whispers, we're going to be used as guinea pigs. But when you look at the data, it suggests that we are disproportionately being affected. It's killing more of the ethnic minorities. So it is a no-brainer that the ethnic minorities would not want to have these vaccines because it's affecting our population. And if you look at our demography, we are exposed not because we're blacks or ethnic minority genetically. There are a lot of confounding factors. A lot of ethnic minorities, they live in overcrowded population. A lot of minorities, when they come into the country, the job they have are facing the public. So you are exposed. You're a cab driver, you're a bus driver, you're a cleaner. A lot of ethnic minorities work in the hospitals. These are front-facing jobs. Right. And then when you look at the population and why it's affecting us so much, is a combination of factors. It's not ethnic based. And the fact remains that a lot of our ethnic population have a lot of comorbidities as well, underlying conditions, which puts them at risk. And that's why a lot of ethnic minorities are dying from COVID-19. And Dr. Bimbos rightly said here, and Dr. Chidi, we need to be volunteering more for these studies. Now, when I had COVID, when they rang me, can you come and donate your plasma? Well, it was my day off. I traveled all the way to Reading. And I don't want to sound funny here. They said, look, if we don't contact you, that's because your antibody level is not high. But if it's high, we will contact you. What did I get? Phone calls to come and donate every 1 to 2 weeks. And I said, look, I'm a GP. I can't be donating every 1 or 2 weeks. I might want to be selfish and say, look, I need this vaccine to protect I need the antibodies to protect myself. But what I promised the NHS blood transfusion services was that, look, when I get my time off, I will come. Reading is so far away from High Wycombe where I live, but I'll make 1 or 2 more donations. So please, if you have been appealed to go and donate your plasma, please do. We are all in this together. We are all here to help each other.
Thank you so much, Dr. Michael. And Dr. Bimbo, the same to you as well, because you are also, I know that you see this very real as well every day.
I'm not aware of any lies, as my colleagues have said, but there are some uncertainties about the vaccine. And I mean, there's some opinions that people have, especially people of BIM community, and these opinions are valid. For instance, in the past, there had been time that new medications, vaccines have been trialed only on black people first, just to see how they reacted to it, and this happened many years ago. So I mean, this could have led to distrust, and that's why, I mean, people are trying to make, I mean, the government, I mean, I would say the UK government are trying to make this information available for everyone. So for instance, I would say in my trust, they did a sample, they sampled everyone that had collected, that had taken up the vaccine, and they found out that 80% of healthcare workers who hadn't taken the vaccine were black people, even doctors, medical doctors, and they just wanted to know why. And everybody, the concern was that, this same concerns that we all have. And then they made an avenue where we had question and answer sessions just like this with professors, researchers, and all that. And they were able to realize that this were like deeply rooted concerns of things that had happened in the past. And so this is to say that people had valid reasons for not taking up the vaccines, and that's why this information is being provided. There was also some things about, the first vaccine, and then 3 weeks after they changed it and they moved the goalpost to 12 weeks. And the government had reasons for this, and these are things that make, just so tiny seeds of doubt, like everybody are just doing things that make them happy, or make them, doing things at the moment that favored them. But there are reasons for doing these things. If they shifted the goalpost from 3 weeks to 12 weeks, it's because it will enable more people to take the first dose of the vaccine, which will provide more immunity for more people than just, reduced number of people. So basically, it's just uncertainties, and this is because this is the first time this is happening. Nobody has all the information. The government does not have all the information. But I mean, if one is trying and one is being open-minded about this, and you'd want to seek more information about it, and want to take up the vaccine.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Last but not least, Pastor Tunde. Sorry, Dr. Michael, are you going to add on? Okay.
What Bimbo has said, I do get the point that people they have been disillusioned and disenfranchised for a long time. But those are in the past. I made no apologies for this statement. I think it's about time we get out of the mindset of victim mentality. This disease is killing us. Not only us, everybody, Caucasians. I had a 19-year-old who came on CNN, Caucasian white boy, first-year university student in Arizona. He had COVID, he almost had a stroke, fit. So it's no respect of age, creed, sex, religion. The fact remains that we talk about ethnic disparity, institutionalized racism. I think it's about time we think of getting out of this mindset of victim mentality. It's very, very important. We've had reasons to be doubtful in the past. Yes, things have been done, but then this is 2021 with COVID killing people. So please, and it's disproportionately killing us, to be honest. So it's about time we think of ourselves and people around us as well, our loved ones. Very, very important.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Michael. I think I see you that you're wanting to say something, Dr. Chidi.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. I was going to add to that, in addition to what he said about the disproportionate representation and the distrust with regards to clinical studies with black people not being very represented. That is true, and I know that distrust because I work in that industry. I am, a major player in that industry. But the thing that needs to be said is, we now have, since the Nuremberg trials in Germany, where women were, they say inadvertently, dosed with thalidomide, that became a lot of issues down the line. We now have extremely mature regulations that govern clinical trials globally. We have the ICHGCP principles. Here in the EU, they've got the clinical trial regulation. And here in the UK, we've got our UK Clinical Trials Act and everything that protects everyone. So if you've been invited to a clinical trial, please do go, because your rights as a human is protected. And with regards to what we've been discussing, I make sure, and I want to stress again, like everyone on this panel has stressed, there is no intention to do anything other than to save lives. And there is no intention to achieve anything other than to achieve herd immunity via vaccinations. So we have had vaccinations in the past. This is not new. The only new thing here is the new type of vaccine, and it does not hurt anyone. So please, everyone, especially for those of us in the BAME community, this is a loud message that we now need to ensure that we protect ourselves, protect your mom, protect your child, protect your wife, your husband, everyone, by going out to get this vaccine. And I also need to add here quickly that the UK government is also looking to now run clinical trials in people who have been excluded, like people under 16. So to ensure that even babies will have this thing, you know, even if we can't jab them, we could do it like a nasal drop. So there is a lot in the pipeline, because this is something that needs to be taken seriously.
Last but not least, Pastor Tunde, what would be your last words on this?
I think what I would like to focus on is to send out there a note of caution, especially, I mean, we're talking about lies. I've had a lot of lies on social media. And social media is just a jungle. If you don't have an agenda of what you want to go and do on social media, when you get there, you'll be adequately given what to do. And you'll find out that you are seized. So you've got to have, some people go on social media to make money. Some people go on social media and in these days of people making fame, you know, people wants to get known, want to make name for themselves, people actually sit down, cook up lies, and then just throw it out there. Because they know that there are people who will just take it up and suck it in and then just make it a governing principle of their lives. Watch out for such people. They are the people destroying the minds of people. They're the people causing divisions and separation and all this confusion that is going on. So be aware of social media. Make sure that you know what you are using social media for and what you're going to depend on, so that it does not cripple you, it does not reduce you, it does not in any way bring confusion and death into our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pastor Tunde. Before we go, we are going to please go to menti.com and just give us some feedback right there. It should bring up a sort of space bar and ask you to enter a code. And please enter the code 9858642. 9858642. That's 9858642. And the website is menti.com. If you find yourself in Mentimeter, you're on the wrong one. So it's menti.com. Yes, it's menti.com. Thank you. 9858642. And so for those online as well, it's 9858642, the code that you put in at menti.com. So one of the questions allows you to say a bit more, and the other one asks you for singular words. Yeah. Yes, thank you. If you've filled it right, it should say thank you to you, actually, at the end of it. So with those online as well, please let us know how you found today's session. That will still be open for at least for the next 18 hours or so. So please, if you watch this session or you watch it within that time, please let us know how you found it. Well, it remains for me to say thank you very much. Thank you very much, absolutely, to our audience here, our audience online, for joining us in this inaugural session of GLOWtalks, the truth, the lies, and you. I hope you have found it educative as we wanted, inspiring. You found it enlightening, I hope. I hope that it's now encouraged you to engage. And I hope it has provided you with tools and knowledge that you can also share with somebody else in your family, in your community, in your professional circle. Yes, we'll empower you to engage more widely with it, not just in terms of action, but also in conversation, which of course, it does come up. Maybe you will see one of those things on social media. You might just be the voice to correct some of those Chinese whispers in the wrong direction. I want to say thank you very much to our panel today, Dr. Chidi Domike, research consultant, Dr. Michael Akintaylor, general practitioner, Dr. Bimbo Adelakun, hospital A&E and COVID-19 doctor, and certainly not least, community leader and a senior pastor right here at Kingsborough Center for discussing this topic so energetically and passionately with us today. Thank you very much, everybody, and we will see you next time at on another one of our sessions on GLOWtalk. We will let you know what the next topic will be. Feel free to also drop us a topic that you maybe want to suggest for us to tackle. You'll be welcome, to submit a topic to us on our number, which you can find on our website. And so it's goodbye from us, and take care. God bless you. Bye-bye.